not on the field, court or ice, you are on the couch. From DG to DC, this is Coaching from the Couch with your host, C. Wall, delivering coverage for all DC sports teams from a hometown perspective. Nats, Skins, Mystics, DC United, Washington Wizards, Caps, Bowie State.
My name's C-Wall, I'm a PG girl. Down for my skins, I don't know if you heard. If you like watching sports, then I am your girl. Sit down on the couch if you not on the field. Cold on the ice, pick any sport that you want. Know that I cover it tight. What would you like? From baseball to football and more. The list can go on the whole night. Big shouts out to my HBCU fam. Never forget who I am. Through the wins and the losses, the highs and the lows. We gotta stay strong, so I stay 10 toes. Make the competition back. The way I kick it, make them mad, man. See all that we live and direct. Sit back on the couch and relax. Come on.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Coaching from the Couch. This is your Washington Commanders update. And I am your host, C-Wall, checking in as I do each and every week to give you the latest and greatest information on the Commanders, and it lets us have an opportunity to talk as well. So I see that you all are already checking in. To my knowledge, Facebook may or may not be having an outage. It looks like we're okay on Facebook as well as YouTube. So, hey, whatever floats your boat, everybody, join that way. Okay. I already see that Mazdak has checked in. I see Damon. I see Lydell. It's good to see you, Lydell. I haven't seen you in a while. Logged in. DJ Bland, John Adams, Dervin Gray, one of my big brothers. I see Corey. I see Camry Mingo. You all need to be hitting the love button, and you absolutely need to be saying hello to Mama Waller, the queen herself, as we get ready to get into the discussion about the Washington Commanders. There's always a lot to talk about. I have to give you all this reminder that this is a live Bowie television recording, so everything we do here, much doesn't get edited, unless it needs to be, but we share questions, comments on the screen. You have an opportunity for it to be on the Tizoob every day. Verizon Fios, channel 11, Comcast Xfinity, channel 77, from 1:30 to 2, and then our other shows from 2 to 2:30. So you all have that update. Has everybody hit the love button? Has everybody hit the love button? I've seen Eric Jessup. I see Tina Moore has come in as well. Hit that love button. You also want to make sure you are sharing this show with your Washington Commanders loving and or watching family and friends so that they have an opportunity to take part in the live discussion as well. Maybe their questions or comments will get on the screen, and that's always a ton of fun, isn't it? I feel like it's been a really long time since I saw you all. Has it only been a week? Has it only been a week? And so we know that a lot is coming out. We all know right now that Carson Wentz did have surgery, so we'll get to that in a moment, that Carson Wentz did have surgery on his fractured finger that he got in Chicago. We'll get to that topic. Among other things, we're going to talk about a few other things as well, because we have to take it all the way back to last week, right? I mean, we still have to talk about the fact that we mentioned that William Jackson III was benched in the game against the Tennessee Titans, and then it came out that the corner is perhaps seeking a new home. We got to talk about that. We have to talk about last Thursday in the game against Chicago, in Chicago on Thursday Night Football. Then, of course, we're going to talk a little bit more about Carson Wentz's injury, what that means. And I also want to talk about the overall NFC East. I want to talk about that. And then if we got some time, we're going to definitely try to get into Commanders versus Green Bay. Now, I already see this comment coming up, and I want to address this. Having heard from Rivera regarding Wentz, you won't hear from Coach Rivera regarding Wentz because there wasn't any media availability today. The team did release a statement, but Coach only talks if he needs to. Now, I believe there's an event, maybe it was last week. I don't know, all my weeks are running together. But let me educate on, he's not going to come out and make a statement when a player gets injured because there's not a game today. There's no media availability today. So perhaps tomorrow there will be an opportunity for him to share. But the Washington Commanders have posted a statement. Before we get into that, let's talk about William Jackson III, because that is a topic that is kind of flying under the radar here, everybody. It's flying under the radar, right? The veteran was benched last week. Then the reports came out that he is seeking a trade or seeking a new home, right? That he did not travel with the team. Everyone knows that the NFL trade deadline is coming up. So I want to know, you all drop in the chat, how do you think the defense in the secondary specifically has performed without William Jackson? And here's what I want to share, because I do want to address this comment here about he doesn't want to be here. I don't think it's that. William Jackson is kind, he's a good guy, but the scheme in which they're in, that's not his strong suit. They're not appealing to a form and style of play that he's accustomed to, and that's not what he does. And it's obvious that that's not what he does. So I think he wants to be somewhere that fits his skill set. You know, I've shared so many times that I've witnessed this coaching staff bring on players and then not cater to where they're strong and what their strengths are. And he loves it here. Many of the players do. I think what has happened is that the fan base is so, for all the things that have happened over the years, that they automatically assume that a player or someone is disgruntled or not happy. The reality is this doesn't fit his scheme. It doesn't fit his skill set. This scheme does not fit his skill set. So given that this scheme does not fit his skill set, he should go somewhere else. So, hey, if it doesn't fit, you got to go somewhere where you're going to be effectively utilized. And I love this comment here. DJ, you get it. He doesn't have a coach that is playing to his strengths, right? He's got to be somewhere where he's going to be utilized. These guys love to play the sport. Absolutely loves it here. But hey, listen, if you're not going to utilize me effectively, it's not a fit. They're trying to mold these athletes and star players into people that they're not. I'm going to give you an example. Now that they're using Jamin Davis in a way where he's most effective, he's actually doing better. You're not hearing his name anymore. You're not hearing about him potentially being a liability or anything of that sort. Why? Because they were able to use him where he's strong. So he's being effective. That doesn't necessarily mean that the opposing offense doesn't outsmart this defensive scheme. We can get to that. But he's still much more effective. You're not hearing his name in lights. You're not hearing all those things again, because now he's actually being utilized in a way where he's effective. So those things matter. And those are the difference between a person or a player that doesn't want to be here and a player who's saying, hey, this doesn't fit my scheme. This doesn't fit where I'm strong. We've tried it. It's not working. And the defensive scheme isn't adjusting to fit his skill set. So I'm not mad. I'm not mad at either side. You got to do what's best and where you're going to be most effective and not making the kinds of mistakes and things that are happening day in, game in, and game out. So I wanted to make sure that was addressed. There's always this connotation about somebody doesn't want to be here. It's not that. I love it here. But this scheme doesn't fit my skill set. So it's not working. The experiment is over. And I totally understand that when the experiment is over. It makes total sense to me. No love lost. The experiment is done. Now, that's the William Jackson conversation. Then we move to Chicago. We go to Chicago, and I need to go back to this before we get into Chicago to acknowledge Dervin's point, which is a big one. Washington has been doing that for far too long. You have now questioned the scouting department. Also, nobody is talking about that either. Make sure you hold that thought before you go to they don't want to be here. Let's really look at, is this player being utilized effectively? And in William Jackson's case, the answer is absolutely not. Now, Chicago, the Windy City, Soldier Field, Thursday night football. Let's go back to this game. What's your one word? I really want to know your one word to describe that Thursday night football game. What is your one word to describe that Thursday night football game? And while you're putting that one word up there, I'm going to leave this up here because I really want to see your one words. I see Cameron Mingo has said escape. Damon said his one word is, meh. Any more one words that have come through? Eric Jessup says gritty. My one word, everybody, is ugly. Ugly. I was just, hey, they won. They won. But it's almost like Chicago lost versus Washington won. Now, hey, everybody's happy with the win. The players are ecstatic. They had all the energy and excitement, and it was good. It was really good to feel that energy and that excitement. But that was not good. What happened in that game? It was bad, actually. I do see improvements going back to the defense. We've been talking about Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne, and now Montez Sweat. I mean, they are just really, really gelling and coming together. But Justin Fields, really, I mean, no pun intended, he really gave them a run for their money. I mean, he was getting chased all over the place. And it's difficult to really, a win is a win, but you still don't want to win to cloud your judgment and cloud your opinion on the fact that Washington almost lost that game. It's a couple things. Defensively, they still gave up some big plays. And right there at the end, they gave up a big play that was almost detrimental. Seriously. And I was really worried. And I think that was where some of Ron Rivera's energy coming into that presser, that was close. The Bears really almost beat them right down to the wire. That play should have even happened, right? Should not have even happened. I do want to acknowledge this comment. Joey Slye missed a field goal, right? It was windy. It was windy, though. It was very, very windy out there. And that's just the environment. But I really like Damon's comment here, which is, it was just too close, right? It was too close. Let's just go ahead and say it. The offense still isn't making any real movement. Of course, everyone was extremely excited for Brian Robinson, as right and rightfully so, but we're still not seeing the offensive movement that we were all seeing in week 1 and week 2, right? Week 1 and week 2, we're not seeing that offensive movement. It's not there. 12 points had won you the game, but that's not something to necessarily be excited about. But the team was happy, so therefore, I mean, they're happy, and that's good, and we're all happy that they're happy. But now here comes Carson Wentz with the injury, right? I had actually tweeted during the game, and I said it on my Twitter. I said, it's something wrong. It's something wrong with Carson Wentz's hand. It's bothering him. It was visible. He was visibly in pain. I'm not sure what the TV version shared. But it was visible. I saw him talking a lot, on the sideline. I mean, he was hype. He was ready to go. But it was clear he was in pain. It was bothering him. Carson wants to win, right? And there's not a doubt in my mind about that, because 2 weeks in a row, we have seen him do monster blocks for Brian Robinson Jr. And check in, fire emoji, if you heard Brian Robinson Jr.'s after game press conference. And while you all are commenting, I want to go back to Tina Moore's comment about they showed him shaking his hand. I mean, he was that may have been it on TV, but at the game, it was like, okay, his hand is hurting. Like it hurts. And he's injured, but he's going to keep trying to play. And Brian Robinson was so excited, right, about Carson, with that block. The team was excited about that block. That's what you do when you want to win so bad. I think I saw a question come through from Josh Kirby about what do I think about Carson Wentz's injury. Well, the only thing I think is that we saw it on Thursday. We knew, and I had a conversation with my, Commanders media colleague, Donna Hopkins, and she actually is the one that said, that looks like it might be the Dak injury, the Dak Prescott injury. And I looked at her and I said, well, if it's the Dak injury, that means he's going to be out up to 6 weeks. And she said, yep. And we just kind of was like, oh, what I think about the injury, it's an injury. I feel bad for Carson. I do. I feel bad for Carson because I know he wants to win. I know he wants to play. Every athlete does. There's not an athlete that gets injured or something that doesn't want to win, that doesn't want to play. They all want to win. They all want to play. And so I know this is absolute bummer for him, but I will say this, and this is something that I shared with you all during the preseason and even during the offseason. And that was, hey, the quarterback room is deep, it's strong. If something happens, then you got Taylor Heinicke, and then you also have Sam Howell. Now, Ron Rivera has been very clear. The depth chart is this. It's Carson Wentz, Taylor Heinicke, Sam Howell. I anticipate that Taylor Heinicke will have a bit more success in the offense because he has more time in the offense. He's been with this offense for now, I guess it would almost be maybe a full year now, right? That this week, I think, would mark the full year or so, or maybe a couple weeks off, but a full year in the offense. Yeah, I'm kind of like, I'm sure he'll be fine. He'll be okay. This is a solid group of backups. So I wouldn't be concerned about that. I think the concern is the offensive line. Let me know your thoughts. That offensive line is an issue. It's an issue. It's a problem. That's a problem. Even for the most skilled of quarterbacks. Because he can run. We know that the arm strength isn't necessarily there. But if that's the case behind this particular offensive line, he's going to be running for his life a lot. And that is what is more disturbing to me than anything. So there's still some challenges there, right? We even know on Thursday, I'm sure there's some opportunities to catch the football that some of the players would like to have back. We know that they would like to have those opportunities back, but they were able to win the game. So that's good. Despite those misses, despite those missed opportunities, the team was still able to win the game. And so, great, but the offensive line is already not up to par where they should be. And then it becomes on top of that, they're banged up. They're dealing with the multitude of injuries as well. So, yes, the depth at quarterback is great, but your quarterback is only as successful as the offensive line that protects him. Okay? It's only as successful. You watch some of these games and it's like, and we're going to move to this topic too, because I want to talk about the NFC East as a whole, because I want to go back to something I told you all. And the Eagles got a mean offensive line. I was watching the Buffalo Bills too, and the Kansas City. Oh, they're so good, right? It's nice to have a good O-line, right? So question. I see the question about Chase Young, and nothing is updated there, but I do want to move on to the NFC East. I mean, he should be progressing. Maybe he'll be back this week. But, he's progressing nicely. He's doing well. And I know that there was one more doctor's visit that he had to go through. This is what Coach Rivera shared with us on Friday, once we all got back from Chicago, that he had another visit with the doctor to determine when his clock starts. So what does that mean when his clock starts? Meaning when his clock starts to return back to the field. So again, Coach Rivera will be meeting with the media tomorrow, on Tuesday, and I'm sure one of my media colleagues, I will not be able to be there in person. So I'm sure one of my media colleagues will ask about Chase and to see how that doctor's visit went. And if it went well, what does that mean for when his clock starts? So that is the update there on Chase Young. The NFC East. Drop a fire emoji, hit the love button if I told y'all that the Eagles were good. Just go ahead and say it. I gave everybody the heads up. I said, listen, based on what the Eagles did in this offseason, based on the moves and the changes that they had made, I said it. I told you all. And I also told you all, that's number one. Number two, what I told you all, is you have to pay attention. Listen, I'm going to always say this. If you only watch your team play, and that's in any sport, if you only watch your team play, then you have no idea what the opposition looks like. And if nothing else, you have to pay attention to your division. Nobody else. Pay attention to the division. Pay attention to their off-season moves in free agency. Pay attention to how they draft in terms of how they filled any holes that they had. Pay attention to who their coaches are. If they made any changes to coaching staff, if they kept the same coaching staff, pay attention to all of that. But it's really kind of frustrating to see that even when changes are made, doesn't seem like there's that long of a curve or period of time for people to get up to speed with some of these other teams. Seems like folks are hitting the ground running. No pun intended, because I know we're talking about football. The Giants are having a lot of success, and they got new faces all around. And there's still another half of the season left. But it's a clear difference in where the Philadelphia Eagles, the New York Giants, then I believe it's the Dallas Cowboys, and where the Commanders are. There's a clear difference across the board. And I want you to drop in the chat, what are your thoughts on the NFC East? Going forward, what are your thoughts there? Because that's what it's about. It's about winning the division. And then we're going to move on to talking a bit about Green Bay while we have a little bit of time. But I really want you all to share, what are your thoughts? And that's probably how we'll close out the show, is really thinking through going into this week and essentially, right, another piece of the season. How do the Commanders really measure up? Right? How do they measure up in the present and in potentially the future? Those are the things that you have to remember and know. Absolutely. And I want to jump right to Mazdax.com. They show us that we don't need 3 years to make a team into winners. Yeah. That's clearly not the case, because we're seeing teams make changes in a year. We've been seeing that now for a couple of years. You know, Daniel Jones, I see this comment here from Eric Jessup, and I'm like, Daniel Jones is still young. I mean, there is no reason to really not stick with him, because he was showing good signs. So I don't think, there was ever any issue. I do want to mention this. Dan Snyder is a distraction, not to the players. I want to dispel that myth as well. They're not clued in to the media cycle like we all are. That is outside. No, and that is one thing that I will give Coach Ron Rivera, is that he does a tremendous job. And then we have to close out for this evening and for this episode. He does a tremendous job of blocking, of supporting the players in a way where the noise is blocked out. They're not in the media, Twitter articles. They're not doing all that like we would be. They quite frankly, the reason why they're not doing it is because they don't have the time. They really do not. They don't have the time for that. And they are focused in that way. When they are in their press conferences, or if we as the media ask them questions about if they saw something or did they hear, they're going to be like, I have no idea what you're talking about, because they genuinely do not know. They don't know. I also want to share, because Dan and Tanya Snyder are the co-owners, co-CEOs, they see the ownership in a different light. If you go back to one of Brian Robinson's first pressers when he got back from injury and he was active, one of the first people that he thanked were the Snyders. So the way in which others, I'll say, you know, the broader community sees that ownership group or that person in particular, that is not the vantage point of the players. Is not. So anything of them losing has nothing to do with Dan. That has everything to do with the coaches and the players. There's everything to do with the football side. So I definitely want to make sure that that is abundantly clear, that it's different. It's not, they do not see it's different. It's completely different. And I think that needs to be said because I've seen it and it's a repeated thing. And so if anything that I can do while I'm in this role is to continue to educate people on what it is in real life and what is not. And so I want to tell you, it is not that. I give Coach Rivera a lot of credit for him doing the best that he can and the best to keep those distractions away and wanting to keep that focus, even for the media, to the players, to the team, the guys that are on that field working their behinds off day in and day out. And that is why, and I know I'm over my time, I've actually said to a few people, I'm glad that they won last Thursday. I'm serious. I felt bad for them because these guys are really working hard. They really are. And that is why when things aren't connecting, I'm going to coaching because I know what I've watched, I know what I've seen, and I know what were issues during the summer that should not be issues in October. And that's a coaching problem, right? But these guys really want to win. They're really working hard. And so they're doing what their coaches are telling them to do. They're not doing what their coaches are saying. They are doing what their coaches are saying. So I hope the season gets better for them. Seriously, I hope it gets better for everybody. And I really, really, really hope that the season gets better for the fans. Because I've said this a number of times and will continue to say it, that the Washington Commanders fan base is by far one of the most loyal fan bases there are, considering all the circumstances. Seriously, you all got loyalty on lock. Okay. All right, you guys, we made it. We made it. Another week, another opportunity to share all things Washington Commanders. I hope you all found this helpful. I hope you enjoyed the camaraderie in the conversation. Okay. And you know what, you guys, I'm going to be seeing you all again very soon. Quick update. There more than likely will not be a weekly DMV Sports update this week. Again, last week, I was in Chicago, and then this week I'm just going to be off because it's Hampton University's homecoming week. And so that's where I'll be. So with that being said, you all be blessed and stay safe. And I'll be talking to you guys again soon.
You're not on the field or ice. You're on the couch. From PG to DC, this is Coaching from the Couch with your host, C. Wall. Delivering coverage for all DC sports teams from the hometown perspective. Nats, Skins, Mystics, DC United, Washington Wizards, Caps, Bowie State.
My name's C-Wall, I'm a PG girl. Down for my skins, I don't know if you heard. If you like watching sports, then I am your girl. Sit down on the couch if you're not on the field. Cold on the ice, pick any sport that you want. Know that I cover it tight. What would you like? From baseball to football and more. The list can go on the whole night. Big shouts out to my HBCU fam. Never forget who I am. Through the wins and the losses, the highs and the lows. We gotta stay strong, so I stay 10 toes. Make the competition back. The way I kick it, make them mad, man. See all that we live and direct. Sit back on the couch and relax. Come on.